were here, both were here for over 62 years. The time came, they left, purportedly giving us independence. And that's what is always celebrated every year. Even this year it has been celebrated. Do we really have the bragging rights to claim independence as Ugandans from the British and the entire Western hegemony?
You see, Arali, the difference between this year's independence and the independence days we have always been celebrating is this. The colonialists captured Uganda formally in 1900 after the signing of the Uganda Agreement.
Yes.
And they gave us our independence in 1962. Those were 62 years.
62 years.
From 1962 to today, it is also 62 years. So it means that from the time we were colonized to the time we regained our independence, and from the time we regained self-rule up to today, it is 62 years. So 62 years in colonialism and 62 years after colonialism. When our forefathers were fighting for independence, they are fighting for independence to achieve mainly three things. One is freedom. Freedom to think, freedom to speak, and freedom to act. The second thing they are fighting to achieve was power. Power to decide on what to do, power to offer justice to themselves, power to decide on which tax to pay and who pays that tax. And you're a friend to Professor Edward Rugumayo. He has written in his book, and there is Why Fireflies Glow. There is a small section explaining how taxes were so amazing for those people. He talks about two main characters, Isingoma and Baryeganera.
Baryeganera, that Mzee who came and danced before the colonial governor.
That was Isingoma, who danced before the colonial governor, requesting Isingoma Constantine, requesting that the colonial governor, a white man, waves off the poll tax.
From him.
And then, no, in fact, he came as a miserable guy putting on a yellow kanzu. He had polar ashes, So, and then eventually, the British commissioner felt pity on him and said, "I've forgiven you the poll tax." So in jubilation,
he danced
and then the British government said, "Oh, you still have the right to do all this, so you should continue paying tax." And what is amazing about that story is that Omunyoro, the father of Professor Edward Rugumayo, says he will never
go there to beg to be waived. I mean, for taxes to be waived off from him.
And he called the British commissioner a son of a bitch. So in simple terms, these guys were fighting for power to decide. And Baryeganera, for him, he said he will never pay taxes to the white man. He said he would pay taxes to the king that Omunyoro used to collect.
Actually, Baryeganera, the all-time criminal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For him, he said, "I will not pay tax to a white man."
And they harassed him so much.
Because the white man wants to make us his slave. So that is what they are fighting for in regards power. And the third thing these people were fighting for was to be the owners of their own personal economic development. So those three things were the things they are fighting for. Freedom to think, speak, and act. Power, but to offer justice to themselves. Power to do a number of things. And then finally, to be the masters of their economic development.
And as you know, and from practice, right now we are not sure after here where are we going, and majorly for what we have spoken or what we have been speaking. As you know, you can be walking along the street there and you're told, please stop saying what you're saying, or even come with first discipline.
No, you see, you see.
So freedom has continued to elude us
our
the
viewers,
62 years.
Our viewers may think you are just saying. But yesterday, we had a group of 19 NUP supporters who were forced to plead guilty for sins they did not commit.
But for just supporting somebody they believed should lead them.
Exactly. A few, and I wouldn't wish to talk about him because I respect him so much. A few days ago, the king of Kasese, Mumbere, was forced to also plead guilty for sins he did not commit. So the question is, did we achieve the freedom as Ugandans to think? Because we have a number of people that don't have the freedom to think.
Yeah, they think the entire, some of these organizations,
the freedom to speak.
Some of these political parties, one of them looks like that. People are deprived of their
exactly freedom to speak and freedom to act on what you have thought and spoken.
But you see,
after attaining our independence rally, our forefathers formed an independence government that was led by Sir Edward Mutesa as president and Dr. Milton Obote as prime minister. These individuals came up with an agenda. The other three were their ambition to get independence. After getting independence, they came up with three things as their development agenda. They said, we are going to fight ignorance, to fight poverty, and fight disease. And these individuals...
But you have 19 mothers dying every day due to pregnancy-related conditions.
Exactly.
You have...
So these individuals...
children dying of malaria every day.
Yes, so these individuals came up with a 5-year plan. The Milton Obotes of those days. And for some time, they stuck to their plan. In education, these individuals built schools all over this country, including the school we passed through, Fort Portal School of Clinical Officers, which is now College of Health Sciences, that was constructed in 1966, starting at the King's Palace, and then in 1969 transferred to the regional Faro. It is at that time that they built the only 3 government colleges of health sciences or schools of clinical officers in the whole country. One here in Fort Portal, another one in Mbale, and another one in Gulu. Since then, none has been added. That was in education. These guys went in health to fight the disease, and they built hospitals all over the country. And you remember the famous hospitals, the 22 hospitals that were built at the same time by these guys.
But in terms of whether both qualitatively or quantitatively,
yes,
how do you rate the value added to the country by this independence?
Yes, I'm still coming, Arari. And in the third area of fighting poverty, these guys came up with cooperative societies, including Toro Diary, that was formed to merge people and villagers together.
This one of Dr. Mwirimovi,
exactly.
Yes,
Toro Diary was formulated and supported by government in 1969. I think 1966 or thereabout, but it was 1966. They came up with these cooperative societies to fight poverty. So now where are we right now?
There is
in those three things. First, wait before we go to PDM.
There is PDM.
In education, starting with education. Education, today, Uganda registers 1.8 million children or pupils in P1. And UNEB released the results and said that for this year, 700,000 students or pupils have registered to sit for PLOE. It means 1.1 million have dropped out.
Yes.
So that is an achievement.
But even attaining post-secondary education...
No, but before you reach post-secondary, 1.1 million have dropped out.
From primary.
So now you have 700,000 that you will have to think of what to do next. Of recent, the president has been moving around the country, threatening head teachers of the USE and UPE schools not to add any coin from parents, that if they dare do so, he will arrest them. That because government is giving them their money to pay for this student. And how much is that money? 7,000 shillings
per head.
There is a school, Arali, called the International School of Uganda. In this school, it's where their children go to. Every term, they pay 37 million Ugandan shillings. But you see, every term.
You see, what you're also not recalling is that to revolutionize this education, recently they rolled out a competence-based curriculum.
Yes, I'm coming. That's where we are reaching.
But it is going to improve the education.
Exactly.
They think.
Exactly, as they say. But I'm telling you that this government child of the taxpayer is paid for 7,000 shillings.
Yeah.
And the person that collects taxes
is paying
37 million per term. That is 100 million per year. Over even. Because if you get 37 times 3, you'll be past 100 million.
But that difference you're talking about of education, that difference in schools as to whether how much they pay here, how much they pay, or even standard, was quite slim during those days.
Yes, but what I'm trying to tell you,
it is too wide this time. Some schools are really doing business, and some schools are really not there even.
Yes, what I'm trying to tell you in making sense of this independence is that there is a British commissioner right now with a black face paying 37 million and deciding 7,000 for you, just like Varieganera was being decided for on which poll tax to pay. Then from education, we go to the second part of health. One thing, a good thing, we are all in this background of health. We need to accept that Uganda does not have a health system.
What does it?
Now, what does a health system entail? A health system tracks an individual from conception to death, not from birth. From the time you conceive and you go to the hospital.
But you see, I want you before you leave education for this, there is something I wanted us to also discuss about it in relation to independence. What we are studying today, the model we are following, the National Curriculum Development Center, how they come up with the curricula of different disciplines. Everything educational. Today you look at how we depend so much on Western literature, on Western technology, on Western everything. When you look at it along with that angle, does it really suggest anything like independence? Is there anything credible that can come out of the Ugandan literary society and it is taken up by the people who colonized us? Our education in that sense.
You see, Arali,
are we taking anything like progress?
Arali, you talked about the facade of the new curriculum.
I wrote about
the competence-based curriculum, which in their explanations was to address the question you are asking of ensuring that we have a Ugandan bred form of curriculum, that we do not study tea planting in British Columbia, yet we have tea planting in Kichura and in Panga Tea Growers Factory, that not talking about cocoa growing in the Tennessee Valley,
when we can go to Bundubuju and see cocoa.
That is what they were trying to say. But this is how their competence-based curriculum was enrolled and rolled out. That in primary, from P1 to P7, you study old curriculum. From senior 1 to senior 4, you study new curriculum. From senior 5 to senior 6, old curriculum. At university, old curriculum. The teachers at university are still being taught old curriculum. As they're enrolling the new curriculum in senior 1 to senior 4, the teachers who are supposed to teach from senior 1 to senior 4 are just being taught the new curriculum.
No, first repeat this. No, let us go slow. You know, we want to understand it better for those who are seeing us. So, primary education, old curriculum.
In fact, let us even start from nursery.
Old curriculum.
From baby to top.
Old curriculum.
Old curriculum.
Primary
from P1 to P7,
old curriculum.
Old curriculum.
Senior
from
1,
senior 1 to senior 4,
new curriculum.
New curriculum. From senior 5 to senior 6, old curriculum.
When you go to study education at campus, you are taught old curriculum. So then you come to teach the new.
And even now, those who are in field right now, who studied the old curriculum, and you know that you have a teacher who teaches history in O level and history
but
in
you see,
A
when
level.
You look at it that way.
In history in O level and history in A level. It's one teacher. But this teacher teaches new curriculum in O level and old curriculum in A level. That this student who has been bred by the new curriculum in senior 4, who is sitting exams as we speak right now, next year in senior 5 they will go back.
But you see, when I look at it that way, as regarding independence, when you look at it that way, that laziness in thinking, that seeming laziness or seeming ineptitude in thinking, it simply means either someone is truly incompetent at what they are doing, or someone is truly determined to keep us depending on the West and not independent. Therefore, isn't that the impression it creates? How do you look at it?
You see, but you, as I'm going to even discuss that, you need to remember that 1 year or 2 years ago, the politicians who people want to usually say, I don't want to associate with politics, the politicians introduced the tax on sanitary pads. They put a tax on pads. And this was the reason they gave that we are introducing a tax on pads to stop homosexuals from participating, and we make the pads.
But the things take like
so now that is the politics. So this child from Kavroisoke will not have the money to buy these pads because the person who produces will be added a tax that these people have come up with. The person who sells will be added a tax, and all these two people they will levy the tax on the end user. Now, the new curriculum, like I said, will start from the mind. How does a person think? If a person is imprisoned in a survivorship mentality, that in this country every day you are supposed to celebrate your birthday because you're not sure how you will wake up. Waking up is a day enough for you to jubilate.
Waking up to do what?
Not before you even think of doing what. Because it is not there anymore.
It is not there, that's the point.
Yes, but for you to wake up that you are alive, you are surviving in this country, and all that you have is a survivorship mentality. So you will not think of this competence-based curriculum. In any case, the person enrolling it is not competent.
But I want to understand, because when you look at that day, 9th, especially this recent one, 9th of October, Ugandans seem to have a lot of love for some of these things, regardless of how superficial they are and how meaningless they are. They flock, they celebrate them, they do everything. And they are the same Ugandans that really forget the challenge the country is facing, which you're trying to give a lot of light. What is keeping Ugandans really behind this? I mean, what is blinding them to these glaring realities? Where they can be hoodwinked to celebrate independence when there is actually no independence.
You see, that question is answered by the two sectors that I was going to talk about, the health and poverty. Now, because of the lack of a health system in this country, and I was saying that the health system tracks a person from conception to birth to living up to death. Hospitals do not maintain health. Hospitals are simply a part of the health system. You go to the hospital when the health has failed to be maintained outside the hospital. Now, because of the failure and breakdown of our health system, today we have 1 in every 3 children under 5 malnourished and therefore stunted.
Actually, to add to give it more dimension, when you go to hospital here, they will do tests on you like blood grouping and cross matching. In a healthcare system, that's abnormal.
Exactly.
Because something like someone's blood group is something you don't even ask. It's already on the records, and you know, as you go there from birth. And if you get an accident, they won't first have to do your blood grouping to transfuse you. HIVs, you know.
So now we have 1 in every 3 children under 5 malnourished and therefore stunted. And this figure has been so for the last 10 or 20 years. And one thing our viewers need to know is that stuntedness is irreversible. The moment
it reaches a certain time, you just can't do anything.
Not even reaching a certain time, but the moment you have been diagnosed that you are stunted
forever.
So now the Ugandans that you are talking about flocking, remember that there is a statistic that says that 1 in every 3
are stunted.
So they are victims of the establishment. And when we say someone is stunted, we not only talk about gurumo kwa hamuvi,
and even mentally retarded and in everything. And mental retardation is quite a baba.
And remember what those forefathers were fighting for to achieve independence: freedom to think, speak, and act. You cannot have the freedom to think when you're stunted. And to our dismay and to the pain of us, the people in Toro, is we are leading second to Karamoja in stuntedness in the whole country.
We are leading in stuntedness. We are leading in HIV. We are leading also in some other thing we are leading in.
Yes. So you cannot invite a stunted person to fight HIV.
You seem to suggest the levels of poverty in this country.
Not this country. Well, let's talk about Toro.
Yeah. But the point is,
in the third sector that I will be talking about poverty, I will tell you of a statistic that the victims of the failure of governance, that is Uganda Bureau of Statistics, because also our data in the country are victims to our bad governance. That's why you can hear the things of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, census, but in their own documents, whether true or not, these people in 2022 or 2023, last year, they did what they called a multidimensional poverty report. They moved all over this country and said
the World Bank.
Yes, and they said they are now going to go off the conventional GDP determination of growth, whereby they get the amount of money in this area, divide it in the people. They said now we want to go in multidimensional poverty and see the poverty or richness in all dimensions. They looked at the health of people. Where do people run to get health? If you are sick, do you run to the hospital or you go to the bush? And when you reach the hospital, do you get medicine from there or not? Secondly, how many people or how many rooms do you have in your house? And how many people sleep in that house?
What do you eat?
What do you eat
in that house?
So they made a multidimensional poverty report, and it was concluded that Toro, 58% of the people in Toro are multidimensionally poor. That when you meet 100 people, 58 of those 100 are multidimensional.
If you find Rujumba walking on the street of Fort Portro, putting on a tie, however much smartly dressed, just to know he's multidimensional poor.
Exactly. And there is a new revised calculation by World Bank that has elevated the poverty line from $1 to $2.5 a day.
That is around.
That's around 9,300, roughly
Yes.
10,000.
Because when you look at the levels of inflation, that should be it actually.
Exactly. So they are saying,
And even loss of value in the currency.
they are saying that if you cannot get or spend $2.5 per day, you are extremely
poor.
So now it becomes worse in a country like Uganda, where you have people whose spirits have been crushed. They are poor in the pocket,
poor
and
in everything,
poor in at heart. That you have a person who, when they see Rujumba in a tie, coming to talk to them about anything politics, they will ask, "You have eaten something.
What have you brought for us?
What have you brought for me?" That you have a person, and my leader, General Mugisha Muntu, has always said that I believe in this country, at least a person has a hen in their back. But he said that you have a person who is willing to sell their vote for a price that is lower than the price of chicken.
Can you imagine? By the way, because how much do they give them? 10,000, 5,000?
10,000? Aral, where do you live?
Here in
10,000?
Yes, in Fort
Who can give you 10,000? A politician?
Yes.
Where?
I have a friend who got 10,000.
10,000?
Yes. 10.
And I am sure your friend might be on your status. Because for us in Bunyanga, for us in our villages, they give you 10,100 people to share.
And you line up.
You line up and fight. It is a cutthroat competition fight. Of recent I had my friend.
And this is the independent Uganda at 62.
So how do you expect a rally, a person that will fight to get 100 shillings? You have your friends asking you for a bottle of beer.
The other time you were narrating to me a story of your friend who went for a girl, and when she accepted, he called you saying, I have issues here. How do I
accept it? I have a problem. She has accepted.
But you say,
so how do you expect that person to get the freedom?
What you seem to suggest is that the levels of poverty in this country alone debunk the word independence.
Exactly.
Alone.
You see, independence means you have freedom to think, like I've already said. And thinking, freedom to think requires that when you have independence in your thought, you don't think of, if I post this on my status, will I get a job?
But this is,
and I am sure you have been approached by a number of your colleagues saying, these things you are posting on your status.
Very many. You'll be like,
where will you even apply?
Tomorrow, where are you going to live? They will come for you one day. So
these days, even people have developed an amazing meme, and they say, which color of the drone
do you want? Can you imagine? And this is an independent country.
Exactly. We are celebrating 62 years of independence.
But truly,
so now,
but for me, what bothers me most is that as glaring as they are, as apparent as they are, widely apparent. I mean, what is stopping Ugandans, even those who have gone to school to pursue degrees in so many disciplines, what is stopping us from realizing this? What's in Ugandans' minds? What sort of magic should someone use to help Ugandans see this? Because there seems to be a very, 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 very big part of us who do not actually realize that we are faced with a leadership crisis. Why?
You see, 70% of the population in this country, and when we use these percentages, people don't understand them. In 1986, Uganda's population was 16 million. And according to these people's census, and I am putting it in quotes. They say we are now 46 million Ugandans. So 46 minus 16, it means 30 million Ugandans were not born when this government was taken power.
Yes.
So it means,
but also in their own in their own census, this one of yesterday, which they own themselves at the banking, they had said that 70%, 50% of the people in this country, 50% are below 17 years of age, and 23 point something percent are below the age of 30.
yes, that the
They are
average,
between 18 and
they
30
said
years
an
of age.
average Ugandan is 16 years old.
So meaning, or actually all most of us
Exactly.
were born after this government.
Yes. So now, that simply means that all the 30 million Ugandans are victims of the establishment. They have been born in a government that puts an environment to have 1 in every 3 children stunted. They have been born in a country whereby a president of the country will carry sacks of money and makes people line up to give them. They have been born in an area whereby they will come and collect you at the parish to give you 1 million to remove you from poverty. They have been born in a society whereby to get a job, it's not about what you know, but who you know.
And how much you have.
Exactly. They have been born in that kind of facade of life. So
as expensive as it is.
Exactly. So you expect these people to break the chains, and Dr. Kiza Besje said it in his speech recently, that Uganda needs a second Uhuru. We need a second independence.
Because
to liberate ourselves from ourselves.
We are under a different form of captivity now.
Exactly. We are living in a paradox kind of life. That when you meet a Ugandan in their normal senses, they will tell you the kind of life they want to live in. They will tell you the problems of this country. But just 3 minutes later,
you'll have changed.
When they see you trying to put into action what you have just been discussing, they will, why don't you go soon?
You're risking your life. These guys are ruthless. They will take you.
Now, that is the kind of country we have. And there is a gentleman called the Great Agre of Africa. This man, called Emens Kwejiragre, is a Ghanaian. He writes a story and narrates it in one of his books. A story of a farmer who used to rear chicken, poultry farmer. Of course, there is nothing much a poultry farmer rears apart from poultry. So he used to have a poultry farm, and once in a while he would open that poultry farm, and the hens and cocks go out, collect something, then come back. So one day they had gone to the bush where they usually go. They picked, and as they are coming back, they came back with a young one of an eagle, called an eaglet, which was so small at the size of these chicks. So the poultry farmer looked at it and he said, anyway, it is still young. It's an eaglet. What can it do? So he kept it around. He started feeding it with the poultry feed. It grew up feeding on this poultry feed, living life like hens and chicken. So after some years, like 5 years, it had grown into a big eagle. But it didn't know anything to do with eaglehood because it has not lived with an eagle. So this man is visited by a naturalist. The naturalist is a person who has studied nature and can differentiate and say this This is a eucalyptus tree. This is grass. This is what, and they are the ones that label these things and call it blackjack and call this. They call that. So he visited this poultry farmer, and on visiting his farm, he visited him and he said, "You have wonderful chicken, but my brother, this is not a hen, but it is an eagle." And the poultry farmer said, "You're right.
You're right.
It's indeed not chicken, but it is an eagle. But I have fed it on chicken feed for too long. It has long lost its eaglehood, and it has acquired chicken food." And this naturalist said, "My brother, once an eagle, it will always remain an eagle, no matter how long you feed it on chicken feed." And the poultry farmer said, "Prove your statement." So the naturalist picked the eagle, threw it into the space. It was not used to flying, so it fell down again. And the poultry farmer told, "I told you that it was once an eagle. I have fed it on chicken feed,
and now it's back.
It has lost its eaglehood and it has acquired chicken food.
And now it has just landed back."
So the poultry farm, the naturalist left. He came back the next time. They repeated that cycle for 4 times, and on the 5th time, he threw it in the sky. It flew and did come back. Said, "I told you.
Once an eagle,
always be an eagle, no matter how long you feed it on chicken." An eagle is supposed to fly. An eagle is supposed to explore the skies. It's supposed to be moving and soaring above the sea level. And there is a sense that 62 years later, the eagles of Uganda have been fed on chicken feed for too long. They have long lost their eaglehood, and we have settled because we have been fed on chicken feed of yellow t-shirts. We have been fed on chicken feed of
we need someone to throw us up and again and again, and then we fly at once.
And before we regained our independence, our forefathers fought for 62
but
years.
Very much on that one. I want to tackle you on that one exactly. We need someone to.
We need a naturalist
to come
and keep flowing us up.
Flowing us. But the point is, when you look at it, like you said, over 30-something millions of this population were born after this establishment had come in. And you realize that we are living in a very, very improved world, connectivity through smartphones and so many things. So we are more able to do the unthinkable more than perhaps our forefathers could. We have access to information. We are looking at how youth are performing in Kenya, performing in Ghana, in other places of the world. We've seen how college students in the United States and Western universities have influenced the policies on Palestine, have rose to the occasion and participated to liberate themselves. What's stopping this vibrant population? These people who are connected to the world much, much more than their fathers could. Why are ours more interested in concerts, in football, in fashion and other things, but not liberating themselves and continuing to believe in this facade of independence? What's blinding us?
You see, you're very right. Benjamin Franklin,
with all this empowerment of social media,
one of the presidents of the United States, said that a society whose young people are in a constant state of slumber will never realize her potential.
How do we stop the slumber?
That's why I said we need a naturalist to wake us up. And waking us up by this naturalist must be deliberate.
Social media hasn't.
Social media cannot.
The advantage it brings.
You cannot tweet yourself to potential.
What I'm saying is the platform it offers for people to organize. Isn't that the naturalist we need?
But you see, even the person that is bringing us blankets to continue in our state of slumber is on Twitter.
You see, the point I'm making is, the naturalists, you are there, you're the naturalists. You're always preaching to us. The naturalists are there, the Dr. Messages, the Mugisha Muntu, they have preached. But all that has happened have been beaten by the people they're preaching to.
Yeah, but
So
one thing you also
there is
need,
Bobi Wine today.
one thing you also need to realize that Ugandans are waking up. Who knew that there would be a time? Who knew?
You are being too generous with
No,
Uganda.
not even generous. Who knew that there would be a time that you have Roden Y Kabako speaking politics? That you'd have Eddie Mutwe giving a stand on politics and being arrested for fighting for the freedom of this country. Isn't that a sign of liberation?
At the same time, Kenzo is becoming president.
Yes, of course, those ones will be there. Those ones will be there. Every time you will be throwing Ugandans to fly in the sky, there will be an ego that will not master the tide of the wind, and they will fall back down. The only thing the naturalist must do is not to give up. Remain consistent.
Continue
Exactly.
throwing the ego up and up.
That today, some years back, you would scroll on Twitter and the only things you'd be confronted with would be naked women, Arsenal Man U, and etc. But today, in every 3 tweets you move, you find someone talking about corruption at Parliament.
Even on WhatsApp statuses now is
Exactly. Every 3 days that pass by, you hear someone trying to say, let me march to Parliament.
But you realize there is some sort of a gap when it comes to people below 30 years of age, with how cognizant they are with the politics of the country, on how cognizant they are with the leadership, how they're supposed to be led. I mean, there is a gap there which we cannot really, and it's disturbing.
A very, very big gap, because throughout history, history is replete by young people that have transformed their countries. You've just given some few examples, just to add some others. When we hear stories of the young Turks in Turkey, these guys were young.
Yes.
And they transformed Turkey and said, this is not the country we belong to.
The Soweto uprising in South Africa.
The Soweto uprising in South Africa. The Dubais we are talking about were transformed by young emperors.
Napoleon was 20-something.
Exactly. And today, the United Arab Emirates is where it is because of the vision of young people. Here in Uganda, the people that fought for independence, Sir Edward Mutesa was 37, Dr. Milton Obote was 36. Come to this current establishment in 1996, General Mugisha Muntu was just 23 years. Dr. Kizza Besigye was around 25 or 20-something years. The Salim Salehs were in their 28 years. These guys were young. And they were fighting and rising up to the occasion.
That is,
transform and liberate their country.
Those examples are now eluding us quite so much.
No, they are not. They shouldn't elude us. They should, in fact, trigger us rather than eluding us.
They are not so common. They are not so common. You're few. You're few. You're few. People who are doing what you're doing are few.
No, you see, and that's why I'm saying that we should be many. Because, you see, water is one of the weakest things.
Everyone should take it upon himself to come and raise to the occasion.
You see,
that's
water,
the point you're saying.
This water here is very weak. I can pour it here and it will disappear. But we have seen water passing through rocks of stone. You've seen like this is a river, it is passing through a stone. The reason as to why water is able to pass through a hard rock is not because water is strong or powerful, it's because it has the capacity to remain consistent on this hard rock. It keeps hitting on this hard rock. It keeps hitting once. It keeps hitting twice. It keeps hitting thrice. And lo and behold, because of that consistent hitting, it creates a way through that hard. That's the same thing that we, who understand that it is our responsibility to liberate this country, need to do. one, we need to accept that we have a group of people that have been hoodwinked for 38 or 40 years.
Brainwashed.
Exactly. And that is 30 million Ugandans
And over.
and over that have been born in this establishment.
We have to exercise patience with them.
Not only exercising patience, but we must consistently throw them up. I am sure when this naturalist was getting this ego, it even might have run away. It might have tried to even bite him. Why are you throwing me? But this guy was consistent. And when he consistently continued to do this work, continued throwing. And that's why our leaders are not giving up.
But you see, the point is,
that's why our leaders like Dr. Kiza Besigye are not giving up. With all the struggles, with all the pain that has been inflicted on him, these guys are not giving up because they understand that their role is that of a naturalist, that they should not give up. So we should not give up on our fellow young people.
So the point I'm making is that as we are throwing this ego up and up over and over and over again, there are also sharks that try to pull it down. Those sharks in form of fear, in form of bribery. You've seen how our top brass politicians are always, hoodwinked. You had a crisis recently in the party me and you belonged. You know, even in this new one, you saw a man. Someone said "Washtiwa" means something. So those sharks in the form of intimidation, you've seen how you can, as you like we are saying, you can be living here and you are taken, not forever to come back, or to come back after being forced to plead guilty. So those sharks in form of that and in form of those things that are posed on this ego that is trying to fly, really, as it fights for its own independence and to leave this bondage of captivity and like you call them black colonialists. Practical, how do you really see Uganda defeating that? How should we really fight to defeat such a kind of sharks? Because even the person you referred to, Dr. Vish, has always referred to those sharks. That if we are to defeat this, we must defeat this. Defeat fear, defeat money, defeat bribery, defeat intimidation. Well, how do Ugandans deal with that? How do they proceed along that path?
But you see, Arari, our forefathers fought for 62 years. We just talked about the example of Bariekadera. They fought for 62 years. And the sharks in colonial times were even more ruthless than Israel. Because, like Dr. Kiza Besigye says, these colonialists, Ugandans were fighting colonialists who not only owned arms, but they manufactured them. But our current sharks here are using second-hand machines.
Borrowed money
to buy second-hand guns from these guys. And by the way, the people that liberate the country are not all of them. They are always in hundreds, always in thousands. You have participated in a number of struggles, Harare, and you know that the successes you have achieved from all these struggles was not the effort of everyone. It was an effort of the enlightened few who become consistent to fight for sanity to be restored. So I believe as thorough as Uganda, the only thing we need to do, like General Muntu said, is now to have a unity of people who are like-minded.
So in simple, but as you're coming close to the close of this, you're trying to say that Ugandans should fight for a new independence.
Not only a new independence,
real independence.
A real independence.
That has eluded us for over 124 years.
Exactly. To be liberated in our mind, for us to regain our freedom to think, our freedom to speak, our freedom to act, for us to fight ignorance, to fight disease, and to fight poverty.
No, a quick one now. You just as you're coming, of course, close to the close of this. The census that was just done. We don't know how many. We don't know how many we are. We don't know how many Batora are there. They had said we are 1.005 million people here in Toro. We don't know now. What's going on? What do you have to say?
Dr. Mkiza.
Usual shambolic work or
Dr. Mkiza is a good
student of?
He has learned his boss. That his boss cannot be accused of doing right thing. Like really? You claim to be competent in this government?
So we just can't expect.
And you want Dr. Mkiza
No,
to
you're
be
saying.
accused of being right?
So you're simply saying we just can't expect a correct census figure from you, boss.
Now, firstly, Dr. Mkiza said that the population of Bateso was put on the population of Northerners, Acholi, and then for Acholi was put on Baganda. For then of Baganda was put on Banyankole. So that's the